chat. Hello, Marty. I see your comment here. I'm so glad you loved the Friday night with friends stream last night. We did have a really, really good time with that. I always love doing those streams. I love, we talk about interesting stuff, like questions and whatever, but it's the tangents that we tend to go off. I love it. It's so much fun. So it's a good thing that you guys all really, really enjoy it too. Okay. So we're just going to take a minute to let a few more people come in. I'm really happy that you're all here. I'm going to just take a second to get set up. I think I need to adjust my camera just a little bit. Let's see if that makes it better. Okay. No, it doesn't. It still cuts me off here. That's better. Okay, you guys can see me better now. Making sure. Okay, yeah, I got all my stuff plugged in. We're good. Yay. All right. Nice. We already have 6 in the chat and 6 thumbs up. I always like seeing the matching numbers. Hello, Rita. Welcome to the stream. And Naomi, hello and welcome. And Melinda. Naomi says she's really looking forward to what Ram Dass has for us. I am excited about that too. I only recently started listening to his stuff like back in January. I actually came across a video, like one of his lectures, totally by accident. It was like, you know how YouTube, you can go down rabbit holes of stuff. I don't even know what the heck I was watching initially. Probably some like spiritual awakening video or something. And you know how it goes like up next and it counts down. If you don't change it fast enough, it will just play automatically. That's what happened. It was playing one of his lectures just automatically. And I was like, oh, I could change this, but I like it. And I've sort of been hooked on his material and stuff ever since. And I'm pretty excited we get to actually do a medium reading for him today, channel him today. We're going to give him a second to come in and connect. I feel like he is almost ready. The thing I really like best about him is that the way he talked and stuff, he just seemed like your average regular dude. Like he didn't act like he was better than you, or he didn't sound like he knew everything. He admitted that he didn't know everything. I like that he admitted that he did really dumb stuff in his life too. And that, he just made the spiritual path just seem much more attainable and a lot less intimidating to like the average person. Made it way easier to understand and digest certain concepts too, which I really appreciated. So we're just gonna take a minute, get shuffled, let a couple more people come in. I did see a few questions you guys had asked in the community section of my channel where I said we were going to be channeling him today. What did you want to ask him? You guys had some really good questions. We are going to do the usual. I do seem to have some usual questions that I ask during medium readings. Like usually I like to ask them something they want to talk about regarding their life on Earth. This time I'm going to ask him what he liked best about it. What you guys wanted to know, what lessons stuck with him the most. You also wanted to know from his non-physical perspective on the other side, what's something that us people in the physical should know or remember. So I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to find out what he's doing on the other side, and then we'll open the floor to him towards the end of the stream with anything that he wants to share. And I'm really excited for that. I'm just going to take a second and just tune in a little bit. I'll show you guys. my God, this is heavy. I have this giant rose quartz. I got this from somebody. It was a very lovely surprise. This huge rose quartz that I love to put on my table, and I like to usually keep a hand on it, like, just something like this while I'm working. I'm just gonna take a second, tune in. I feel like he's like coming in. It's funny because at first I felt like I couldn't really perceive him, but he's just like, I've been here the whole time. What are you waiting for? Hello to everybody who's just joining the chat now. We have not quite started yet, but we're about to. Allie, welcome to the stream. I am glad to see you and that you were able to catch us live too. So, all right, we're about 6 minutes in. I think it's okay for me to start. I feel like he's kind of ready. It's funny because he's kind of laughing at me waiting for him to be ready, but he's already, that sounds weird, he's already being ready? Like, being ready and stuff. That's kind of like a human concept. And he's telling me to chill out a little bit. Maybe not in those words, but that's what it means. He just wants me to calm down a little bit because I'm like I was pretty excited. I'm a little bit hyped to talk to him. So we're going to start. Now, first of all, for those of you who are not aware, Ram Dass actually used to go by the name Richard Alpert for a long time. He was, I think it was at Harvard. It might have been Harvard or one of those other Ivy League schools. But he was a professor of, I think it might have been psychology, because he had like a whole bunch of expertise in human psychology. And eventually he started going down a spiritual path. I can't remember what exactly happened, but he did lose his job as the professor. And he did a lot of traveling after that. He spent a lot of time in India with gurus and was learning about meditation, was learning about spirituality, and was going through a pretty serious awakening for a long time after that. I think a lot of this happened during the 60s and 70s. So this was quite a long time ago. But he continued giving teachings and lectures and stuff up until he died. He only died a few years ago. And he's correcting me. He's saying he didn't die. It was just the body that died, which is kind of funny. Okay. So let's just say he joined the non-physical about, I think it was only 3 years ago or so. It was not that long ago. Very, very good spiritual teacher. Has a lot of really, really profound, had a lot of profound things to say, had really interesting philosophy, and he just had a really, really cool outlook on life. He was a total hippie too. Oh my gosh. Just the classic long beard, the peace sign, necklaces, the sandals, all the LSD, all that stuff. I was going to ask him what name he preferred I call him by, but he said he, in his life, changed it to Ram Dass. He's fine with us using Ram Dass. He says he hasn't been called Richard in a long time. So I guess we just, we'll continue calling him Ram Dass. So what I want to know, first of all, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. What did you like best about your life on Earth? Because you had a long life. I think he lived to be about 88, I think. So a very long life, full of interesting experiences. So what was the best part? And immediately he says all of it. That's a perspective he's kind of gained from being on the other side. Cheryl, thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. So I had 3 cards come flying out. So what did he like the best? Okay, Ace of Swords. I actually have first, there's everything that he's learned. The fact that he was able to start that path of learning and ascension. That's the word that he's trying to give me to say is ascension. He is really grateful that he was able to do that during the lifetime. He says some people don't start on that path until after their life is done and they get over to the other side, where maybe they feel safer to do that, or like they kind of have their suspicions about life and reality confirmed, so it's a lot easier for them. But he said he's really grateful that he got to start learning this stuff while he was still on Earth. All of the connections there's so many friends and so many connections he's made with his Two of Cups. It's almost like this happened, I think this came a little bit more naturally to him after leaving Harvard, but making friends later in life became a lot easier for him than it was earlier in life. He's saying when by the time he had hit his 40s, he found it so much easier to socialize with people and to get to know people than it was when he was like 20. It's kind of what he's showing me. He's saying he dropped the shyness. I wonder, now I don't know very much about his early life or anything like that, so I wonder if he was kind of a shy person at first. He's saying that he had to open up. That was something he had to do in this lifetime, was to learn how to open up. And that was something he didn't figure out until he was an adult. What else was some of his favorite part? King of Cups. I don't know the name. I think he's had more than one guru that he worked with. And I don't know the name of one that he's trying to tell me in particular, but he is showing me that when he was like first traveling to India and first getting used to this, new way of looking at reality, he was getting used to this new guru. The guru was very, very calm and was not easily moved. Like in an emotional way. He wasn't easily manipulated. He wasn't bothered by the things that Ram Dass is saying used to bother him. And he really admired that about his guru. And he wanted to learn how to be, I don't know, unmoved is the best way I can describe that. But at the same time, there will always be things in life that will have an effect on us. But he didn't want to be so like emotionally invested in basically our 3D illusion that we're living in. He wanted to be able to look at life a little bit more objectively, and he's happy that this guru taught him this. He learned a lot of it just from watching him. He's showing me something about how he would become very angry. Ram Dass would become very angry. And then the guru would just basically just shrug, just have something really calm to say in reply, without judgment for the emotional outburst or anything like that. So there's something about getting a handle on emotions, and he's not saying that he learned how not to feel them. Of course, we have to experience them. That's a part of the human game. Our emotions are kind of signals that tell us whether we feel like a boundary has been overstepped, or if we feel good and comfortable, or things like that. But he seemed to learn how to get his emotional stuff under control and not be so easily affected. Oh, you guys hear a buzzing noise, huh? Okay, that might be better. I think that was the microphone. Is that better? I'm sure somebody will let me know. There's always going to be a few seconds of delay. Okay, so the noise went away. Okay, I had to plug my microphone in a little bit better, I think. What else? You know what? This is really fascinating stuff. So I want to know what else he liked best, or what else he liked a lot about his life on Earth. He appreciates that he got to spend a long time here. He is saying that it doesn't really matter the length of the lifespan. It's kind of like what you do in between birth and death that is important, which, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Because he's showing me that there's some people that can live to be like 99. He's showing me the number 99. So there's people who can live to be very, very old, and it's almost like they haven't learned a thing. That they're still at the emotional or spiritual maturity or the level that they were at like 19. There's some people that live very short lives, but at the same time, the lifetime is like chock full of experience and wisdom to be had. It's he likes to think of it as skipping a grade in school. Some schools allow that. You know, maybe a child is performing exceptionally well, or they're very gifted or something, and they're able to skip up to the next grade. He's saying that we shouldn't be sad about that, though, with like people who have short lifetimes, even though he's saying that's a perspective that is much easier to wrap your head around once you're on the other side and you've already died, because he knows like grief, that's a normal human thing. We're devastated when somebody has a short life. And when somebody who has a long life dies, we go, well, you know what? They had a good run. But he wants us to know it's what you've learned in between. He's saying he's grateful that he got to have a long life because he feels like he got to learn much more. And he's saying that a lot, the really big learning process, he's saying the wheel didn't really get rolling until he was about 30 or 40 years old. So he was just really glad to have a long lifetime where he could have the first half of the life to get used to the 3D illusion, to get comfortable with the ego self, to get a grip on who he was, as like a human being, who he was as Richard Alpert in, the roles that he's supposed to play in society and stuff like that. He got comfortable with that, and then he got to spend some time learning more about his spiritual nature and the spiritual nature of reality. So he's just grateful that he had a chance to spend a lot of time doing that. Now, what I want to know is what lessons stuck with you the most? Because I know I'm sure there were so many. I want to know which ones which ones stuck with you the most, which ones really, really resonated, and which ones you thought were the most important. I don't know. So I shuffled really well, but there's that Ace of Swords again. It's fun to learn new things. But one thing that was super important to him was that he had to take a break in between like major life lessons or major like spiritual lessons, because his thing he wanted to was like, okay, I learned this. I'm so excited. I can't wait to learn the next thing. I can't wait to go up a level. I can't wait to do the next challenge. But he had to actually spend some time practicing or embodying what it was that he had just recently learned. So he's giving me an example. He was just learning how to meditate. I'm not sure what age this was. He's a young adult though. Just learning how to meditate. And it felt really relaxing, felt really good once he got the hang of it. And then afterwards, he's like, okay, well, I know how to meditate. Now I want to learn how to astral project. But the thing was, he had just learned meditation. So an important lesson for him was learn how to meditate, make that part of your routine, get used to integrating that into your life and reaping the benefits of it. And then you can learn how to astral project. Otherwise, he's saying his mind would have just been filled with all of this stuff that he wants to do, and he would place very heavy expectations on himself. Well, I have to learn this because he wanted to, right? But he expected himself to pick things up just quick, at least when he was first starting off with the spiritual path. So then he'd take some time to get acquainted with the new skills or the new whatever it was that he learned, the new concepts. He'd take some time. He'd take it easy, kind of just chill out, live his life, And then another opportunity would come to learn something else. So he realized that he didn't have to push himself to learn all these things, and he didn't have to rush the process at all. It doesn't matter. He's saying it doesn't matter how excited that you get about your spiritual progress. It's going to run at the exact pace that it's supposed to for you. Otherwise, how else is anything going to stick? How else are you going to appreciate what it is that you've learned? And how are you going to get used to it? He's giving me like the school example again. He's saying like, you go to kindergarten, you learn how to read, you learn how to write your name. That's really cool and all. You might get excited about, oh my gosh, I can write my name. But you can't just go from that to being like, okay, I want to write a bestseller. He's saying that's kind of what he was trying to do when he was learning about his spirituality. He was going from basically spiritual kindergarten, getting a grip on that, getting the hang of it, and being like, okay, let's go to spiritual university. No, he had to learn how to take that slowly. That was a very, very important lesson that stuck. He had to learn how to have patience. I think patience was he's saying that was something that didn't stick until he was much older. Much, much older in life. There's always this very much, well, I can do this, so let me just do it right now. And you know, there's like, I should have known this by now. I should have been doing this by now. He had to learn how to be patient and how to set aside those really big expectations he had for himself, to set aside the pressure that he was putting on himself. His guides are, well, he's telling me that his guides are saying he had great initiative. Again, I don't know what all he went through in life, but I have the moon card, and this is like stuff. Sometimes it's mental health stuff. Sometimes it's just stuff we try to hide from our past, or stuff we try to avoid from our past. Usually like just really uncomfortable things that have happened, or things that we didn't really process because it's, you know, either it's sad or it's, like I said, uncomfortable, or we just don't want to be reminded of the certain thing. He had to learn how to accept, like he had to learn how to face, something about facing his past. He had to learn how to accept that, because it was kind of blocking his growth for a long time. He's saying something about ego gets in the way, and that he wants us to know that even once he did really get the hang of spirituality and got really good at being patient, got really good at, you know, all these other things that he would do, his ego would still hang around. He's saying that he didn't completely shed it because he still needed to learn from it. Eventually, though, he did learn how to set the ego aside, maybe not completely get rid of it, but it left a lot more room now with the star card. It left a lot more room for like his spiritual self, or like his higher self, to come through and sort of dictate a little bit more rather than the ego self. He had to learn how to set all of that aside. The ego self really, really likes its comfort zone. And especially when you go on a spiritual path, sometimes, first it might, for some people it's different, but for some it's really easy at first, because it's like, wow, this is so exciting, this is so cool, it's so different, oh my God. But for some it's really hard, because it's like, the ego is basically like kicking and screaming, being like, no, we were comfortable here. He's using himself right now as the example. You had a good job, you had a career, you had all of this like reputation, you were comfortable, you had this money. He learned how to just go, yeah, but that's not how it is now. Now it's different. There's something about acceptance. Acceptance is a really good way to help push the ego aside. So next, I want to know what he's doing on the other side. And oh, Cheryl in the chat is sharing a really good quote from him. One of my favorite quotes from him actually is, treat everyone you meet as if they are God in drag. I always loved how he would talk about maybe he'd have to deal with like a really annoying person or really challenging person, but afterwards he'd think, no, God, I see you. You can't trick me with that one. What is he? I just want to know, like, yeah, what are you doing on the other side? I'm sure you have a lot of stuff. I mean, at the moment you're talking to us, but what else are you doing? This is weird. Because first he's just saying the word Om, but there's something about contributing to the resonance. Like Om is basically the sound of the universe. That's just like its vibration. I'm getting this image of him. He's sitting, he's meditating, he's saying Om, and it's contributing to like carrying on the vibration of the universe. I hope I explained that well, because it's a very, very weird imagery that he's giving me right now. It's like he's, something else he's showing me, maybe so that I understand better. He's showing me like plugging something into the wall and the current flows through. Well, he's showing me a lamp, plugging in a lamp. And the current, it flows through like all the wiring in the house and stuff. He's saying it's as if he was like the lamp or like the cord or whatever. He just likes to help channel this universal energy. So I want to know what else he's doing. Another thing he's saying is he's saying just being. Let's see if there's anything else. So I mean, just being, contributing just to the flow of like, I don't know, cosmic energy or creation or the unified field or whatever you want to call it. What else is he doing? There's a little bit of, now I call it spiritual therapy. When somebody crosses over and they have a lot of stuff to work through, but they get help from like other beings or other guides or whatever. Because there was some kind of level of suffering he went through. And I don't know at what point in his life, but it was something that, it wasn't like he totally repressed it and didn't want to try dealing with it or whatever. He was able to deal with it little bits at a time throughout his life, but when he went over to the other side, it made it a lot easier to process everything from the lifetime. There's something here about like his old self. And I don't mean old like old aged self. I mean like old self, like a past version of himself. He had to come to terms with, this might have been what he was like when he was teaching, like when he was, doing the whole psychology thing and when he was at Harvard. Because there's something here about knowing the truth, but saying and teaching otherwise. And he did admit in a lot of like his other lectures and stuff that, after a while that did start to feel kind of out of alignment for him. It's just really weird. On the other side, it's like he had to come face to face with himself and sort things out. I don't know if you guys know what Ho'oponopono is, but it's basically, you can say it like for yourself, a past version of yourself, or for someone who's hurt you. You are pretty much, it's almost like a prayer like for healing. You pretty much start with saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. He had to do something like this but it was like his enlightened self had to say it to his unenlightened self. I don't know, his closed off self. He's saying we can call it his closed off self. So his open self was saying this to his closed self. I'm sorry I left you in such darkness, or there's like, I'm sorry I left you in such ignorance. There's also this feeling of like, please forgive yourself. You didn't know all the truth at the time. And then there's the like, I love you, you're still part of me. Thank you for what you've taught me. Hi, Priestess. He's doing a lot of studying. It's a lot of spiritual. He's kind of doing the same thing over there as he did here, basically. He says it's a little bit easier over there because he doesn't have that ego self kind of on the back burner, kind of whispering to him, hey, this is really dumb, or like, are you sure you know how to do this? Are you sure you're not making this up? That's something he struggled with that I'm just picking up right now was, are you sure you're not just bullshitting everyone? That's how it was coming in. So on the other side, it's just a way clearer consciousness, and it's a lot easier to receive all of this like spiritual information. Stuff that he didn't have time to learn in this lifetime, he's learning over there. He's something that I'm being shown is like he's learning how to, or maybe he's already learned this by now, manifest things. I know we already can do that on Earth. He got okay at doing that on Earth, but he's showing me a trick. Well, he called it a trick that one of his gurus used to do, and it involved a round object. It looks like a coin or something in his hand. It would just materialize in his hand. And so now he didn't learn how to do that on the other side, or on Earth, so he's learning how to do that on the other side, which is kind of neat. And he's learning how that works and why. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. I'm seeing like mathematical equations and stuff too, which I don't know. I'm kind of surprised to see that, but then again, I guess there is always some way to explain. Maybe there's always some way to, in human terms, explain something like really spiritual. And what else is he doing? He went over and he celebrated. I'm hearing something about partied for days. In our time, it would be days. So I don't know, how long that would have been in the spiritual realm. Time is just so, I guess it's not really a thing over there. It's just so different there. He partied for days. Just celebrated like the successes of his life. And it's not just the material success. He actually was more excited by the time he crossed over, more excited over all of this really cool stuff that he learned that was able to help him through life. Let's see, is there anything else that he's doing, that you're doing? He finds it funny that I keep saying he instead of you, because he's like, you're asking me the questions. I think he does some teaching over there too, because I'm seeing he's sitting outside. It's just like this big like open field. It looks kind of like a park or something. I'm not really sure, but this big open field. He's sitting there. I guess cross-legged. They used to call it Indian style. I don't know what they call it nowadays. But he's sitting like that, lotus position almost, kind of. And there are other beings, there are other people sitting around him, and some of them are taking notes, and some are just listening very, very intently, and some Some of these beings, like, they are taking on, some of them take on the form of people, some of them are just like little balls of light sitting there listening. So he does some teaching over there, which is pretty cool. Something about initiate, I get that word initiate, like maybe he's helping people that are new to the spiritual realm, probably helping them to adjust. And he's saying it's not like he has to teach anything over there. It's not like he's saying he doesn't have to do anything. Like, it's not like he's being forced to do anything. He doesn't have to come up with curriculum plans. He doesn't have to grade papers and whatever. But he'll sit there, and some people are just kind of like drawn to him. And it's just like he's teaching very basic lessons to people who are very new to being on the other side, which I think that's really cool. I kind of want to know what he's teaching over there. If it's the same stuff as he taught here, or, something else. Because there was something about helping to, initiate people, get them used to the other side. So let's go a little bit more specifically. What is he teaching? Okay, showing me one of the most recent things that he was teaching, and that is that you're not stuck. There's something about life is constantly in motion. Now with this Eight of Pentacles, this guy, look at all of these things he's done, and he's still working on more. Life is always in motion. Energy never gets stuck or becomes stagnant. However, we can feel like it does, because we might think we're stuck, but really we're actually just on a loop going around the same. He likes to think of it as going around the same block over and over again instead of getting to your destination across town. So he's teaching people that actually you're not stuck. You have a little bit more, you have more influence over what you do than you think. Something else that he's teaching, there's something here about gratitude for what you have already learned and what you've already come to the spirit realm equipped with. How to have gratitude for that, how to look back on the lifetime and have acceptance and gratitude for, some things are easy to be grateful for, all the good times, the people that you love, things like that. But some things you think about and you go, why the hell would I be grateful for that? That was awful. He's teaching how to see it differently, how to see those kind of times differently, those really hard times, and how to pick out what the lessons were and have gratitude for each of them. So that's something that he's been recently teaching people about over there. Now, the next question that we all have is, from your non-physical perspective, what is something that everybody on Earth still, here, what's something that we should all remember, something we should know? But I feel like remember is the best word to use, because on a very deep level, we do know it, but there's some things that we forget once we're born, we come here, and some things that it's just kind of part of the game to remember as you go through life, as you go along. What is something that we on Earth should remember? Okay, first of all, this is a transitory phase. I get that word transitory, something like that. Because this is not where we're permanently supposed to be. We're here for the time being so that we're supposed to learn. He keeps showing me school for ways to help illustrate his points. I guess because that makes more sense to me. That might help some of you guys understand it too. We spend a lot of time in school, Some of us, we do K to 12. Some of us go on and do community college. Some go to university. Some go to like, what do they call postgraduate? Some just are always learning. But we don't spend our lives from birth to death, like in school. We do have time out in what some people call the real world. We have a lot of time out there to like learn. He calls it out in the field. We have to spend a lot of time out in the field. This is temporary. And some people become so attached and rooted, and it's kind of like the ego becomes attached and rooted into this earth incarnation that it's almost like we forget that this is not all that there is. He wants us to know that we all have a place here, this world card. That nobody's here by accident. And sometimes, we might consider it that way, or, some people, I'll use myself for an example. My parents called me a surprise baby because they didn't really, they wanted another kid, but just not that soon. But I came along anyway. Nobody's here by accident though. How sometimes a situation like that will come up and they'll joke, oh yeah, I was an accident. No, you weren't. We all have a place here. We all have a role. We all have important work that we're supposed to do. However, he wants us to remember, yeah, we're here to learn. We're here to do some work, but we're also here to kind of just enjoy as well, to enjoy the work while we're doing it, to enjoy the learning as we're doing it, and to appreciate the lessons, to appreciate everything. Our works are important, but they're not everything. Eventually, we go back to he calls it our origins with the star card. We go back to the universe that, it's weird because we come from the universe, we cross over, we go back to it. We go back to our source eventually. He wants us to have balance. I think this is what is kind of what he's sort of talking about here. He wants us to have some balance because there are some people that are just so invested in the 3D illusion. And they're so invested in like, okay, I need to work my way up through my career. I need to find my worth through like, my material success. I need to hit all of the milestones or whatever that our society puts on us. So for example, some people kind of they're so obsessed with like, okay, well, now I've finished school, so now I have to go to university. Now I have to get a really good job. Now I have to get married. Now I have to have a family. Now I have to work for, I don't know how many decades. And then I have to, retire, or some people just feel like they always have to be working. And then some people kind of go, they have kind of the idea that this life is not all there is, that this is kind of a game. But there's some people that realize this and they just go, well, fuck everything. I don't care. I'm not doing anything because this is just a game and it doesn't matter anyway. He wants us to have a balance between the two ways of thinking. That yes, it is a game, our lives on Earth, but you have to play by the rules of the game. And you have to have some... He's showing me, you got to have one foot on the ground and the other like in the ether. That's what he's showing me. Some people are both feet on the ground. Some people are totally spacey, both feet in the spirit realm, totally absent from their earth lives and what they could be learning. He's saying we got to have a balance between the two ways of being like that. He's showing us other stuff. This is kind of like going back to our previous question. What is he doing on the other side? He is also saying, like, he's like, well, if you're curious, he's found his parents over there. So he actually spends a lot of time with his father, it seems. So he's got a lot of, he's saying there's a lot of catching up that they had to do. So he's been spending time with his parents. I think that's really nice. He knew he was going to find them over there. I'm hearing something about, I get it now. This could be something his father had said to him, or like that kind of sentiment was expressed to him. There's just this like, something clicks and he's like, oh, I understand now what you mean. Now I get it. He might have, Ram Dass's father might have been a little bit put off by the spiritual transformation that took place with his son. That can be really jarring. For some, you're like still really locked into the 3D, or some people call the Matrix. Some people are just really locked into the earth life. And you see somebody go through a spiritual awakening or transition and you go, what is wrong with them? They have lost it. He was kind of weirded out. I like that Ram Dass is using that word, weirded out. I like that. He was weirded out by that spiritual transformation, but then they met up with each other on the other side, and it's almost like his dad's been caught up to speed. It's like, okay, I get it now. I understand why this made you happy. I understand why you chose this path. But Ram Dass is saying, like, it was nice, but he also just felt good knowing, this is something he had to accept before he had passed away and gone over, that he was not going to make sense to everybody. He wanted to be able to reach everyone and let everyone hear, well, he's calling it the truth. He's also calling it an alternative view of reality. He wanted everybody to know it and embody it, and because he thought that would make the world a much happier place. People maybe would feel less like held down by expectations, and maybe people, he thought maybe people would feel more free to be who they truly are. But he got to the point where he's like, you know what, I don't have to make sense to everybody. He realized, as much as I want to, everyone's on their own individual path. Everyone is doing their own thing. You can't really force somebody to learn something if they're not ready for it. He's showing me something about cognitive dissonance. Where some people, he would say something or talk about something. He's saying some people would get up and walk out of the room. Sometimes, some lectures, especially if he went to, now I don't know where all he went in the US, like he traveled everywhere. But I'm seeing, he lectured at a university, and I don't know which, no idea. I don't think it really matters, but he's showing me one sometime in the 1980s. And he said something that some people found very, very profound, and yet somebody else was like, ugh, and just walked up and got up and walked out. That stuff didn't bother him after a while. He's like, well, that's okay. They'll figure out their reality. They'll figure out the truth on their own. Something else that he wants to share with us is that it's kind of in the same vein, but it's just that maybe some of us don't give lectures. Of course, like some of us have YouTube channels where we talk about all this stuff quite freely. Some of us don't really give lectures, but like just the way in which we live our lives, that does not have to make sense to other people. And you don't have to prove anything to other people. Like you don't have to prove, oh, I'm spiritual now. Just be. You don't even have to like be spiritual. He's saying just be. The stuff that you're learning and the way that you're meant to be, that will come. You will develop that. You don't have to make sense to anybody else. You don't have to prove to anybody else like that. One, you don't have to prove that you're not crazy. He's saying more and more people are starting to awaken. He's saying over the last, he's showing me the last like 20 years. It's funny because I don't know, this is weird because he's showing me, this would have been the early 2000s. I would have been very little, maybe like 5. And he's showing me that even, then, early 2000s, people were already becoming quite spiritual. He's saying in 2000, the world was a lot more awakened than it was in 1970. And now he's showing me, we're in the 2020s, and he's showing me how the amount of people that have been awakening, like that's doubled since the early 2000s. So he's saying eventually a lot of people will kind of have an understanding of your spiritual path because they might be on one of their own. And he's saying to be spiritual, it doesn't mean that you have to join a religion. You don't have to join anything. He's saying if you have like an appreciation for life, you have an open mind, you're willing to learn what it is that your soul wants you to learn. You're willing to learn the lessons that will help to make you a better person, to help make you maybe feel better about this lifetime. He's saying that's a spiritual path on its own. Wanting to get to know yourself and work on yourself, he's saying that is a spiritual practice. And you don't have to justify that to anybody. Yeah, Ellie puts it really well. A human being, not a human doing. I really like that. Ellie goes on to say that people who reject spiritual wisdom are simply unripe apples. They will, oh, I missed the comment. They will ripen in the fullness of time. That's exactly it. And he's also saying that it's not really our job to make other people wake up. What our job is to work on ourselves. And sometimes other people will see what we're doing and they might go like, well, they seem really happy. Something is working for them. I kind of want to know. Or, sometimes we might be talking about something that to us, maybe it's a spiritual concept, maybe it's something to do with the nature of reality. To us, that's like normal stuff. But to someone else, it might be really, really far out. But at the same time, they go, well, that's interesting. And we kind of drop like a little seed of thought. And it's not our job to, go and water the seeds for that person and to teach that person. It becomes their responsibility what they want to do with the information that they are given. He's saying it takes the pressure off when we learn that we don't have to awaken people. I think he when he was first starting off with the spiritual path and teaching, he was kind of concerned about, well, how many people can I reach? How many people, how many people's perceptions can I change with my teaching? He's saying that's kind of an ego thing, my teaching. How many people can I change? He realized it wasn't him that was changing the people, it was them. They're changing themselves. They would either accept the information and the wisdom, or they would reject it and maybe come back to it later. But it was on them what they did with it. Some people did go forth and go down a spiritual path of their own. He wants us to remember that we're not forced to wake other people up. We're just supposed to go about our business And we will definitely influence people. Some people we influence directly, of course, but there will be many, many more that we influence indirectly. And it's based on their free will as well. So he says that takes a lot of the pressure off of being a spiritual person or being a spiritual being. He says, teach if you want to teach, but just know that you're not going to be able to reach everyone, and that's okay. We're going to see if there's anything else that he would like to share before we wrap up the stream. I can't believe how fast our hour went. Oh my gosh. And his energy, some of you might be like wondering what his energy is like, that I'm tapped into it. It's very subtle, actually. I thought it was going to be a lot stronger and bigger and like, boom, I'm here. But no, it's very subtle. He's very humble and just very... yeah, I'm here. Just like, you keep showing me school. School. But, then again, he spent a lot of his life in school. So this kind of makes sense. He's more like the kid in the back of the room that is being very quiet, but they are learning something. And they're contributing, but not in a very outlandish or very loud or obvious way. His energy is just really subtle. It's really calm. It's friendly. I like it. Just very subtle and calm. Let's see if there's anything else that he wants to share. I'm hearing something about validation. This might be a collective... okay. This might be like a collective lesson. This is for a lot of people. We're going to be learning how to shed the need for validation. That's kind of a human thing. Our ego craves it, needs it. Because for some, it's like, well, how else do I know I'm doing a good job? How else do I know that I'm doing better than I was yesterday? He's saying we don't actually need validation. He's saying we already have it. Sometimes it's nice. It feels good. He's saying there's nothing wrong with, seeing synchronicities. Sometimes we see like 11:11 on the clock, or we see the matching numbers, or we see like sometimes it's somebody's like birth date or birth year. Sometimes it's a different symbol or whatever. It's not always numbers. Sometimes some people see feathers or a certain type of insect everywhere they go. He's saying like that kind of thing, like it's okay to want that because it is exciting. It does sort of confirm to us like, hey, you're on the right path, but at the same time, we don't need these things. He's saying we don't need them. That this is just a big collective lesson that we're going to be learning that something else. He's saying you are beautiful. You don't need people to tell you that you're beautiful. If nobody ever told you that you were beautiful, it doesn't make you any less attractive. Even if you were never ever told it, he's saying it still is a fact. Another example is like with intelligence. You don't actually need to be told that you are wise. You can just be wise and have wisdom, keep learning. You don't have to be told that, wow, you are successful. You can feel good about your life and have gratitude for everything. And our definition of success, he says we really don't need like society's definition of success, where it's like, oh, you have a lot of money, you have a beautiful spouse, you have, children, or you have this great career, or wow, you're famous, or wow, you did this really like heroic thing that you're going to be remembered for. He's like, we don't actually need that. Those are maybe types of success, but that's not the energy of success. That's not what it's supposed to be. He wants us to know that we can still have success in our lives. We can just look back on the things that we did well and the things that we learned and moved on from. Even if it's like you did something really dumb in the past, but you learned from it and you did not repeat the mistake again, he's saying that's a success. You didn't repeat the mistake. You have success in your life. Says the ego is what needs validation. Our true self doesn't, because our true self already knows. Already knows we're doing a good job. Already knows that we're beautiful. Already knows that we're intelligent. Already knows that we have a good life. Or, that things are okay. Or that you're doing a good job. He says a lot of us don't realize how imprisoned, he's using that word, imprisoned we are, because we feel like we're not getting anywhere or we're not doing a good enough job if we aren't told by others and receiving that external validation. So we're going to start, he says it's not going to be easy, that this is something that is just so ingrained in human nature. But that over time, humanity will start to figure it out. He's saying this might take a very long time. And there will always be people out there that will require, feel like they require external validation to feel good about themselves. But he's just telling us that it's not necessary. That we can just be as we are and still be happy and know that we're doing well. You don't have to show anybody that you're doing okay. You can just do okay. You don't have to prove to anybody, wow, look how happy I am. Look how full my life is. You can just be happy and live your life. That's all the validation you need. It's just, yep, I am doing this. So I really like that message. I know that is something that is a lot. I think it's easier to have that perspective on the other side. I'm sure it must be. Because being human, that need for validation is so strong. And a lot of people live for it. He's saying that that's not what life is really about. It's just part of the game. It's not the entire game. I really, really appreciate that he came through and told us this, because I feel like so many people needed to hear that, myself included. I'm not a perfect person. I do also struggle with wanting validation and struggle with the self-worth and, well, it doesn't count if I tell myself I'm good enough. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. That it's okay that we have our human limitations, but that it's also okay to embrace that true self, that true spiritual self that doesn't need to be reminded constantly of how worthwhile that it is, because we just already know. So I'm really appreciative. I think we are going to end the session here. I'm sure he's got lots of other stuff to do on the other side at the moment. I know I have some stuff to do with my day yet. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you, Ram Dass, for coming in. You are welcome at any time. We'd love to revisit you in the future. I think that would just be fantastic. Thank you to everybody in the chat who was watching and participating. I really, really love it. I appreciate it so much. If you haven't already done so, like and subscribe to Sienna Rose Metaphysical. If you have suggestions for future medium readings and channelings and things like that, just let me know, because I love doing this kind of stuff. It's just so much fun for me, and I learn a lot from doing this. So let me know if you want me to read on anybody else. I do have some ideas. Maybe in the future I would like to talk to Dolores Cannon, maybe channel her, or maybe Dr. Wayne Dyer. He'd be really interesting to talk to as well. So let me know if you're interested in that. Lenny, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to see you again very, very soon on my channel, okay? Okay, bye.